The last sentence was a punch. Maybe it's true that blood doesn't make family, but sometimes blood is what drips when the mask falls. I dropped my phone. I ran to my laptop. The original file had been deleted, replaced. Every copy, every version. Backup, inaccessible. Emails, gone. How she managed it, I didn't know. But the mark was clear. Brooke. The next day, I took everything to the administration. The school's IT confirmed the text sent came from my email, but the access had been made by someone with my login, from an unknown IP. Ryan worked part-time in the library. He had access to the computers. The school asked me to redo the speech. They promised to review it personally. Just a scare, they said. But they knew. She was closer than ever. On ceremony day, my mother helped me put on my gown. Her hands trembled, but her smile was firm. You made it this far. Nobody can take that away. In the car, my father said nothing. Deep down, he was afraid the ceremony would end with more than diplomas. At school, the gates were more heavily guarded. But surveillance doesn't stop ghosts. The packed auditorium, white chairs, artificial flowers, the sweet and suffocating smell of cheap perfume. The speeches went by. Speeches from students, coordinators, parents. When my name was called, I walked to the stage feeling the world weigh on my shoulders, each step like a step toward judgment. I took the microphone, breathed, looked at the audience. She was there, in the back row. Dark shirt, hair tied back, dark glasses, a cap pulled too low. But I would have recognized her even in the dark. My blood froze, but I continued. Good evening, everyone, I began, my voice clear despite my racing heart. We are here today to celebrate, to remember that we made it this far, and that alone is an achievement. But we are also here to acknowledge that the path to this stage is not always fair, not always kind. I continued, improvising where the text had been destroyed. I spoke about what it's like to grow up with someone trying to erase you, about what it's like to fight for a place in a house that had already been built for another. I spoke of pain and silent courage. No names, no revenge, but every word was a subtle blade. Brooke looked at me like a sphinx, without blinking, without smiling, like someone waiting for a signal. I finished the speech to applause, but eyes were turned to the back row. She was no longer there. I left the stage with my heart in my throat. I went straight to the backstage room, accompanied by 2 security guards, at the administration's request. Inside, I found a brown envelope with my name. Inside, a photo. It was me as a child, sleeping in my bed, and a figure in the corner, poorly lit, with a shadow over her face. But I recognized the scarf around her neck. Brooke. On the back of the photo, there was a sentence written in red pen. The house isn't yours. It never was. And I still have the key. I stared at that sentence for so long that the words began to blur. The weight of the paper in my hands was ridiculously light, but it seemed to press against my chest, as if this were more than a note, as if it were a warning, an oath, or a sentence. I didn't tell my parents that night. I knew what would come. More surveillance, more locks, more empty promises of everything will be fine. But none of that stopped Brooke. The problem was that they still thought she was a person in crisis. I had already understood. She was an expanding threat. The next day, I checked all the locks in the house. All were intact. No sign of break-in, no broken windows. The guest room, where she had slept for years, still contained some remnants. Books she never read, notebooks full of blank pages, photos of us that now seemed like jokes. But there, inside one of the closets, I found something that shouldn't have been there. A dark wooden box, locked with a simple padlock. It was dusty, as if it had been forgotten, but I knew. Brooke didn't leave anything to chance. I broke the padlock with a hairpin, and inside I found a pile of paper clippings, old notes, printed messages. All mine. Messages I wrote, gifts I gave, even pieces of school assignments with teachers' comments. It was as if she had made a file of me, an obsession. But the worst was the diary. It wasn't hers. It was mine. My old diary, which had disappeared years ago. When I was 12, I thought I had thrown it away by accident. But there it was, with pages